Thank you for staying with us and welcome back. Good morning. My good name is Brian Sakwa at Sakwa Brian on all social media platforms. And we are talking about an interesting conversation that will literally get you started now. When it comes to building a stellar forte or a career in some sort of way, either way, you'll get to interact at least with the human resource. And for any functional company, there's always a functional and active human resource center. How can the Gen Zs take over this HR space? And one Gen Z who's literally revolutionizing the HR space is the one and only Monica Evian. She's a human resource generalist and she's here to give us all the good and interesting insights when it comes to HR and the Gen Z in 2025. Good morning to you, Monica.
Morning.
For anybody who's watching you for the first time and hawajui ni nini unafanya kule kwenye uko, tafadhali waeleze kwa ufupi.
Okay, so I'm Monica Evian, a human resource generalist, currently working at a software development company. But now the reason as to why I'm here and the reason as to why I would want to impact my generation or my career space, I came up with a foundation called the HR for Gen Z, which has 3 main objectives. So the first one is training sessions, second one is mentorship programs, and the third one is now creating opportunities. Yes.
Yeah. What year?
I am in my 3rd year. Yes.
Yeah. And maybe why the HR space? Did you professionally pursue human resource as a training course or as a skill and then became a profession and expert in it? Or it's something you maybe, because right now we live in a world of gig economies where you can be a doctor by day and by night you're a DJ. Yeah. So for you, how did it happen?
So for me, I pursued HR as a profession. Yeah, so I went to Kiriri Women's University of Science and Technology, where I did my diploma and also my bachelor's in human resource management. And now currently I'm pursuing my CHRP. Yes.
CHRP?
Yes.
Certification
for the human resource profession. Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to also be certified. Yes.
And let's avoid kidogo that your camera shot is stable.
So.
Yeah. Now, I think this is a different place, an interesting place to come from, because I believe all along you're building your forte as a human resource expert as well. But then you're taking it up with the Gen Zs and trying to teach them different things that are in line still with what they need to meet outside in the world out there. So when it comes to the Gen Zs, even at large in the Kenyan landscape, what were the missing links or the missing gaps that you identified that pushed you there so that, you try to give them platforms that, could enlighten them about mentorship, networking, because I believe these are really important things, especially in this day and age of gig economy and artificial intelligence. So what did you identify that pushed you into the space?
Okay. So this came about, or we started the foundation from after the 25th of June 2024. And
last year. Okay.
Yes, and I saw a gap. I saw a gap in in our youths, and I decided now in my space, how can I make a difference? I identified that from my space, I'm in a position to do things like trainings for free, pro bono trainers, the trainings for the youths. I identified gaps such as financial literacy. You get to see such gaps like financial literacy. People don't know where to invest their money. People don't know how to save. People don't know how to budget. Things like mental health are overseen. You can clearly see like most of the youths, like majority of the youths now from the statistics, you find that majority of them are really depressed. So how do we go about this? How do we go about addiction? Now from betting and the likes, how do we go about this? So me seeing that gap and seeing a space where I can actually make a difference, I decided to make a difference. Also in the space of now, let's say creating opportunities, because that is one of the objectives. I saw there was a gap. A lot of youths out there don't have opportunities.
Unemployment.
Yes.
Another word.
So you find that maybe someone has an idea but doesn't have funding. Someone else has a skill but doesn't know how to use it. Someone else maybe just needs, let's say, a sense of direction when it comes to like the workplace environment. And with that sort of gap, I thought of this foundation as the solution. Because
what is the name of the foundation though?
HR for Gen Z.
Yeah, HR for Gen Z.
Yes.
An interesting name.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at the end of it all, I would want to attain financial freedom for each and every youth that joins the foundation. I would also want to create opportunities. Also want to now have mentors who are going to guide youths in different spaces, be it entrepreneurial space, be it the career spaces, and all the likes.
Now, from these spaces you mentioned, I believe they are very, very, very important. For HR for Gen Zs, what are some of the steps you've taken to try bring Gen Zs on board? Or also, in other words, maybe some of the interaction sessions with Gen Zs and what some of the things you've managed to, let's say, impart in them, because HR for Gen Zs, I tend to believe is the next big thing to look out for. I believe so. Yes. So what are some of the things you've managed to, connect with the Gen Zs and accomplish?
So as I mentioned, the 3 objectives, that is how they align. So we started with the training sessions where we created a WhatsApp group. This WhatsApp group, basically we inquire from these people who are in the group, the youths in the group, what are some of the skills you would want to acquire. Basically listen to them, hear what they would want. Then from my own research, what would I want now to impact them? Now have a sync to these 2 things. And then now eventually we have sessions. I've mentioned we have sessions on now Google Workspace where we train virtually youths from different spaces in different topics. So we are going to move from that. Right now we are in the process of partnering with different individuals, HR gurus, entrepreneurial gurus, organizations, where in the long run these people will now mentor the youths in the space, and then now move to creating opportunities. You see, it has to have a flow. We need to understand that these people are actually trained for us to get to the last point. You can't just take someone who is not fully equipped and maybe give them money to start a business or just place them in the organization. So I want to do it differently. Yes.
The sessions you've conducted, maybe from the last session, I don't know if you've conducted already, because you said you started last year on the 25th of June. From the sessions you've conducted, what are some of the training skills or the conversations as well that you've already had with the Gen Zs who've come for HR for Gen Z training sessions? So
we actually, the entire last year, we were planning on how to execute and basically get the right footing. So the first and the only training that we've done is on mental health. Yes, so we've done a training on mental health, basically understanding mental health, how it impacts, how to improve your mental health. Now in your space, speaking to people in a language they can understand. Not just doing research and now pushing it to people, finding ways to interact with the youths or inform them in a way they can clearly understand.
Like making it practical. Not just selling a document. Looks good on paper, but on ground situation is different. And now, I believe maybe we can base this conversation now on mental health, entrepreneurship, and then career, and then we can infuse tech towards the tail end. So when it comes to mental health and the Gen Zs, what are some of the problems that are festering in their lives? Or let's just say, what is the wound that Gen Zs are battling in terms of them being Gen Zs and being hard and creating a career and becoming a meaningful person in society and then just living life? What is the wound Gen Zs are battling?
I can say right now it's financial health that really triggers the mental health. Then we also come to a space of lack of understanding. You see, these are different generations, but you find in most workspaces or in different platforms, Gen Zs are considered a certain way. Like they've already stereotyped us. So that stereotyping create something in our mental like space, and it now affects us mentally. So I would want to change the narrative now in terms of coming in, ensuring that this attitude,
these notions and
this notion
connotations,
they are trying to create.
This and this and this,
yes.
Maybe you can talk about it as well. These connotations around Gen Zs, ati wako hivi. What are some of those common ones that you'd like to debunk and just like let it cease and desist from today? Gen Zs hawako hivyo, ni nyinyi mnafikiria kwa hivyo, but Gen Zs ni wapoa tu sana.
Yeah, Gen Zs ni wapoa. Basically, there are people who actually know what they want. And when they know what they want, they stick to what they want. Now that is the problem, because for since kitambo tumekuwa like in a space where our, let's say our generations before us,
the boomers,
the boomers and the likes, wamekuwa like yes people when it comes to politics, to employment, to so you find someone who has stayed in a toxic workplace for over 10 years. And it not only affects their personal life, it also affects their families, it also affects their financial life, it also affects, like it affects different spaces in their lives. So that is what we stand against.
But they're still stuck there, you know, because of a paycheck, But for Gen Zs are like, 1, 2, 3, I don't like you, you're the boss, you're the CEO, but nah, survive now and buy,
Yes, and then you
Is
find...
it a good thing, really?
Okay, it's not. I'm saying it's not a bad thing.
It's
not a good.
sword.
Okay. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. But who is actually training them? You see, a lot of people are actually pointing fingers. Hey, Gen Z, wako hivi, wako hivi, wako hivi. But who is actually guiding this Gen Zs?
Right.
Who is actually leading them into these spaces?
The right direction.
Yes. Who is actually mentoring them?
And that's mentorship comes in now. So now with mentorship, which you've also said you're doing, how do you mentor a Gen Z who, say, they don't have a sense, let's say a sense of direction and just a sense of purpose and trying to, you know, because I personally do believe Gen Zs and still a demographic of millennials are struggling with identity crisis. They just don't know who they are. Their lives are unpredictable. Like wanaendanga na flow, wanaenda na reason na charm, you know. Kesho ikishika tunaenda, isiposhika tunarudi huko hivi. But then for a person who knows themselves, they be like, hata yenye imeshika sidai cause mimi najijua, mimi nafanyanga hivi differently. And I think that touches on matters identity crisis here. So when it comes to Gen Zs realizing who they are, maybe what needs to be done. But you mentioned mentorship, which is a very key pillar. Maybe you can go and explain.
Yeah, so even before mentorship, there is something we'd want to do now in the foundation, where is basically doing things like personality tests. First, understanding yourself before anything else.
Does this include the signs, the Aries and horoscopes and the Geminis and the Tauruses?
Not really. So basically,
that's not part of the personality.
Okay.
But I've heard of melancholic and
yes, sure.
Yeah.
So basically, that is what we would want to do. One, to understand themselves first, understand what interests them now in different spaces, not only in their career, but also what are some of their hobbies. Basically, those are some of the pillars that will now enable an individual to identify, this is who I am. I am not faking it. I am not this other person. I am not using social media. This is actually who I am. And now from that understanding, you find now a mentor in a certain space. Let me say I am passionate about entrepreneurship. At first I didn't know. But after doing a personality test, yes, I basically understand my interest and all that, my career lines. I find that, oh, I'm interested in entrepreneurship. Then now from the foundation, we find someone who is a guru in entrepreneurship. I join into the space where I can be mentored. In fact, I'm looking into CEOs and business owners who can work with these people. Like they can call in. You see, come to work with your child day, something of that sort.
I think it happens
but
a lot
this
in
is
state too.
so come to work with your mentee, with your mentee. So you work with this person. You see, okay, this is how they do their things. This is how they run meetings. This is so you're actually learning. Not only from a theoretical perspective, but a practical
pragmatic
perspective.
way. And on location with your mentor.
Yes.
But then I had somebody say mentors pick you, you don't pick them. But then we are also told, you should go out of your way and ask someone, can you mentor me, be my mentor?
Yes.
So would you advise a Gen Z to source for a mentor, not to solicit? To like say, hey, Sakwa, can you be my mentor? Hey, Monica, do you mind being my mentor? Is it advisable for them?
Yes, it is. It is really advisable. For me to be here, I have mentors. I have several mentors.
Several, not just mentors, several.
I have several mentors in different spaces. So it is really, really important for anyone who wants to grow in any space, be it entrepreneurship, be it in your career, any industry whatsoever. So you find a mentor, ensure that you learn as much as you can from this mentor. You see, most of us usually think from a financial perspective when interacting with someone who is like in a higher
high
space.
Profile.
Yes. So you're thinking that this person will fund my business, this person, but there is a lot. Money is not only the resource needed for growth. There is a lot that is needed for growth. There is knowledge. Yes. There is even market. This person can introduce you to like your buyers and something of that sort.
Or even mention your name in a meeting. That's an opportunity already.
Sure. Yes.
And that's interesting actually, because we also live in a world where like moving away from millennials who you've said, because last week there was a tweet that said kama kuna watu wako na uoga ni millennials, and I was even actually highlighting it today. They stick, like Gen Zs are questioning the status quo. They're questioning. They'll be like, hii job mbona umeipea 50k na mimi naona according to me inafaa kuwa 100k. So Gen Zs are not afraid to question and even say no. But millennials will be like, oh, ni 50k but tunakulipa 45, so anza Monday. Millennials just go with the flow because they also come, I believe they come from survival mode and also being told you have to succeed because we've invested in you. So they'd rather go to the extent of suffering than trying to question the status quo, to just go with the flow. But then when you look at what Gen Zs are doing even with social media, they're really daring. Everything that they do depends on the digital space. And now you've mentioned about matters mental health. How do Gen Zs position themselves in a state where they're not being able to, let's say, be swayed or swapped or be swerved by whatever trend comes, even because they hear there's something that AI is trying to do, and they're going to actually have lesser people in workspaces and have more robotics and people that work with robots and AI. But then when you look at the mental effect of that as well, could be really deep. So how can Gen Zs ensure that they stay mentally stable without being swapped by, oh, this celebrity did this, oh my goodness, I feel like I should do it as well. Oh, my friend has just, he's in Diani and they're using this job, maybe I should go get a loan and also go there. And that affects your mental health as well. So how can they be mentally stable?
First is understanding yourself, knowing that you are different and unique from everyone else.
Okay.
You are built differently and for a different purpose. So once you understand that, I think trends won't be in a position to basically sway you. So also in that same thinking, now focusing on using social media wisely. You see, social media can be good and also it can be bad. So identify what can this platform help me with. I can just use an example of TikTok. Right now, if you go to TikTok, there is a lot happening now in terms of the entrepreneurial space. A lot of ideas youths are getting from there and basically implementing them in their own spaces, like in their own markets. So you can now choose how to use these platforms. They can either make you or break you. So
Yeah.
in that angle, I believe understanding yourself, understanding why you're here, understanding your purpose, understanding that you're maybe here to make a difference and not follow the trend.
Yeah.
Yes. So I believe those are some of the things that will now guide you in terms of the mental capability of handling these trends and all that, and following what one maybe social media personality is doing and all that.
Yeah. But then also I'm looking at a Gen Z who is stuck at a place where they're caught between a rock and a hard place of whether to make this, could be, what can we call it, a decision that could permanently alter their lives for good. In terms of, we've seen some of these videos that some of these influencers post, they've done really some heinous things and they go viral, and then several months later they pop up at a radio station or they pop up with an endorsement and whatnot. Yeah. Does it come from a standpoint of lack of parental guidance and lack of mentors and lack of people, even religious leaders? Because even right now in the country, they're calling on religious leaders to speak to the Gen Z. So waambie mwache kwenda kwenye mnaenda, you know. So does it come from a place of lack of parental connection and guidance, or it's from a point of, you know, you're a human being and you should just know better either way? Because also millennials learned the hard way. Why can't Gen Zs learn the hard way too, by just knowing better?
Okay. I think I can say, from my perspective, it's not about lack of parental guidance or lack of a mentor. You see, there is a point where we play the sympathy card. Aki oye, ni mimi, oh. But when you get that ID card, you are a mature person. You're making your own decisions. So some of the things we blame parental maybe guidance, we blame we didn't have a mentor, we blame we didn't have a leadership, absent father, absent
but that
mother.
I believe could affect somebody's character.
It would,
yeah. And
but to a certain point. You see, something drives you to a point you allow it. How will I now put this? There is, to some extent, someone allows something to affect them the way it has affected them. Yes, I know there are like a couple of triggers towards that, but there is a time you as a person stand and say, no, this is not how I would be living, this is not who I want to be, and that is basically goes back to my point of understanding yourself.
That's self-realization.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from that point, you decide you're going to make a difference. There is a lot of resource out here. There are trainings basically on mental health. You can go and find them on YouTube. There are people you can talk to. There are leaders you can reach out to. There are mentors you can reach out to. Not everyone is that bad. There are like churches who are open to these platforms. Like they basically have people you can talk to.
Yeah.
So when you say that you are incapable, I don't think that is possible in this current state with all these resources that we have.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it could come from a place of self-confidence, because I believe self-confidence as well is massively instilled by your parents. There's I think it's a psychiatric quote that says, how you speak to a child becomes their inner voice when they grow up.
Yes,
and
yes,
it bases on how a child is treated from. And recently somebody said you could be 45, but you're still suffering from things that were said to you at 5, 6, and they are torturing you even louder than the things you've gone through as an adult. Yeah, but it's interesting. But then when you look at the attitude, if you closely study the Gen Z's attitude, even in the workspace and even in profession, most of them have this YOLO mentality. They could finish kumalo type of, you know, attitude. They'll be like, leo ni ile siku tutafanya, and they say it as it is. They say it like they mean it, and they will do it either way. Shockingly, even with what happened in the Maandamano, there's those that were writing their eulogies and sending it to morticians and telling them, you know, Mama, if I die, I died in the revolution. Look at this generation, fearless. They're not afraid of dying. They're not afraid of being shot and killed. YOLO, the reason, the charm for them is they'll go for it, and if they die, they die. When you closely study such a person, Are you able to diagnose that there's something loose somewhere, and we need to adjust it in a good way to just return you back to reality? Because for how long do you want to live this YOLO life? Yeah. If you look at the long-term vision of it, even if it's in a career, you're disagreeing with someone, it will be like, you know, they pull up these F words and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For how long do you want to do that as a person? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
how do you train this person to become back to themselves?
I will not unloosen or loosen, I don't know which is which you've used, but what I believe, I'll take that fire and use it for good.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone who understands, I'm here for today,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on today. This
Yeah.
person has a fire
Mm-hmm.
that cannot be quenched. So
Yeah.
why don't we take that fire and use it for good? Why
Yeah,
don't we take that fire and train it?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, not to be wild,
Mm-hmm.
use it for something good. I don't know if you're getting.
Yeah, I get that.
Yes.
I get that. Because I saw like somebody like Maverick Aoko, but I met her for the first time in 2021 in Kwampo University of Nairobi. I was moderating a conversation about the gender youth dialogue. Way back, she was advocating for the boy child, and then she went through something traumatizing, and she changed akanda sasa kuongelea politicians and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
She literally channeled her anger and everything into politics and what she does. Yeah, I think that's a fire example of that.
Yeah.
But then when you look at, when you still study Gen Z closely, there's a sense of lack of direction or lack of purpose or lack of, let's say, just identity. Yeah? So how do you make a typical Kenyan Gen Z who from, let's say, in Kibra or even in Bungoma, the interiors of Bondo, yeah, to know who they are? Where does it start with knowing myself so that I start building a sensible career, so that I become like Monica Evian, who's now on TV, giving these, you know, golden nuggets of wisdom about life. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me use a typical example of what you've just shared. Someone in Kibra, maybe alimaliza. Let me use Swahili.
Yeah,
if you
sure.
allow
Go
me.
ahead.
Alimalizia class 8. Amekuja amesikia kuhusu HR for Gen Z Foundation.
Yeah.
We take this person. Kitu ya kwanza, this person is not really familiar with things like personality test and all that.
Yeah.
So you first understand them.
Charm, demure,
So you first understand them from their perspective, understand them from what they like to do, identify their strengths, their weaknesses, where they would want to see themselves. So from that space, we can now create a training program specifically for those individuals. We get to train this person. Then, now in terms of where they would want to see themselves, find a mentor in that space. Let's say mtu anataka kuanza entrepreneurship ama anataka kuwa mechanic. Wacha tutumie entrepreneurship. Anataka kuwa entrepreneur. So we find a mentor. Basically someone in that space who has been there for long, who has started from scratch. We have actually seen this person grow, something of that sort. So from that space, this person will work with this mentor and be able to identify some of the skills needed for this particular industry. So from there, we now look into the training. Amemaliza training, amekuwa mentored. How do we now support this youth? So from the foundation, we are looking into funding business ideas, and not only business ideas, and also businesses that are already existing.
So that means you're giving them grants?
Yes.
So and where will these grants come from? The government? Because I believe the government is also doing that.
So let me tell you one funny thing. Do you know how much a trolley is? Like a smoky and eggs trolley, the smallest one and fully stocked. Do you know how much it is?
There's a time we asked a question, what would you do with 1,000 bob? And somebody said, start business here, smoking samosa. Yeah. And you were debating, is it enough with 1,000 bob? Yeah. So,
ni 12,000.
It's 12,000?
12,000
for that katroli, the ones you see in the CBD.
Yes.
Smokies na
so, yes. It's 12,000 shillings. Okay. With the first stock. Mayai, the smokies, the kachumbari and everything. it's 12,000 shillings. So what if 120 people contribute 100 shillings?
Yeah.
Some things huwa tunaangalia, we need grants, sijui tunahitaji sijui loans from sijui government watusaidie. Some things tunaweza jisaidia sisi wenyewe. Hiyo trolley ni 12,000. Wewe ukitoa 100, mwingine atoa 100, mimi nitoa 100. We can buy one trolley for this youth. Then that specific youth who has been trained, who has been mentored in that space, now we trust him to fund this business. We ask him to contribute, let's say from the business now, contribute, let's say if it's 100 shillings or 200 shillings kila wiki. Then it accumulates. This money becomes enough to buy another trolley. You see, some of the things we look into them as big things, like we are not capable, but kuangalia, we even have the money. We have the money to do this. So I believe working with the partners that I have right now and people who believe in the idea, these are some of the things that we are going to do. We are going to start small and eventually grow big, because now from the foundation we're looking into having different things like our own gym, where people are going to come in, register for membership, sign with some amount and all that. Now it goes back, so it goes back to the business. Or open something like a coffee shop, you see, and it gives money back. And this money now, we can now fund a business idea or even fund an actual business for our youth.
At Channel for Gen Z, you're a standalone, or you have people and partners that you're working with?
So right now, the founder is me. I'm working solely, but I have support from a lot of people. I will just mention.
You'll mention them in just a bit.
Yes.
You'll mention them. We have like 5 minutes.
Okay.
You can talk about some of the skills that Gen Zs need, because when you talk about financial literacy as well, it includes your interaction and your relationship with money, and how you can multiply it or invest it or channel it to somewhere, so that it creates something sensible for you that not just impactfully helps you, but it helps the people within your social status. So what are some of the skills that you help with Gen Zs to be financially, let's say, secure or stable or literate?
Yes. So first is understanding money. Because I believe that is where we really need to focus on. So first things first, understanding money, then there is investments, then there is savings, there is loans. So
about money, what should be on top of the list for Gen Zs?
Basically, understanding money in a way that money is a resource. Money is something that you use to multiply. You see, most of us look at money as a bills payer, and that's it. We look at money as a resource, not to be multiplied. So
is money not a problem solver?
It is, but that is not the only way we should look at money. You see, when we look at money from that perspective, it limits our thinking. Yes.
Today in the morning I was highlighting a place where it says, for real money buys happiness, and people should stop saying money is the root of all evil. But when you look at how traditionally in our African culture, you're told go to school, get a degree, high school graduate, get employed, and then from there was never a conversation about you interacting with money and how you treat money. And how you should romanticize your relationship with money. We live in a world where people are manifesting. I want to manifest $10 million, and the mantras, the manifestations, and everything. But then, if you are instantly given $100 million, how do you deal with it? What is the first thing you're doing with it? How are you reacting mentally, and how are you spending it, and how are you dividing it? Apart from the rule, what is it? The rule of 50, 20, 30, or 50, 30, 20? How can Gen Zs actually get into that space where they romanticize money in a good way?
So basically, I would now advise now from the foundation, because we are going to bring in people. I can use an example of someone who has been in the financial space and actually impacted my life financially. She's called Rina Hicks. She's big in finances and anything in relation to money. She has
literacy.
a lot of topics from her YouTube space.
Okay.
That is where I actually got to learn from now in terms of money, in terms of investing, in terms of this. So basically joining a platform, what I can advise any youth out there, joining a platform that is intentional about money, intentional about educating you on money, intentional about informing you about these things such as investing, saving, budgeting and all the likes. Because as you've mentioned, we are not taught this in schools. No one taught us. We were just told, go get a job. Yeah, you have a job, that's it. Or you have a business running, that's it. But now when you join a space that is intentional about training you and training you to actually equip you to know how to have a relationship with money, I think it's a plus.
Okay.
And HR Gen Z is that platform.
Right, incredible. How HRs are treated actually, this is my second last question. You know, a lot of people view HRs as intense people, especially in workspaces, because they only know HRs when they're being fired or when there's some, you know, some sort of appraisal or there's, because HR are also in charge of developing the labor force or the employees, you know, that are in charge of their records and everything, remuneration and whatnot, hiring, recruitment, firing, all those things, So how are you, I'd say, revolutionizing the HR perspective and installing a different mindset and a filter from what traditionally HRs are known for, firings and tough talking and read the memo attached is that document and PDF, you know. How are you changing this narrative and installing a fresh breath of air?
Okay, from my end, I believe is people first mentality. And I'm not saying this from a perspective of just saying it. You know, most of the HR says people first or when they're on social media, but when you actually go to those organizations, they're not people first driven. So from my, like the organization I work in, I involve myself in the employees' lives. Like I ensure I understand this employee from what they do outside work, what motivates them, what encourages them, what are some of their hobbies.
And you go to that extent, like a therapist.
I think HR is more, and along the way, people have lost that in terms of understanding you're a people-first industry. So I want to change that narrative, and I'm actually doing it in my current organization, where I get to understand what some of the side projects some of the employees are doing in my organization. Where can I support? Do you have a side hustle? We have meetups every quarter where we get to discuss everything and anything not related to the employment space. We get to discuss what are some of your side hustles. Maybe unauza viatu, unauza bag, tuma kwa group.
That's literally entrepreneurship.
Yes, tuma kwa group to support. Maybe you have a YouTube channel. Tuambie link to maybe you're,
or you're even selling products on TikTok. There's this dude who is selling ladies bags, like clutch bags and purses, and he's famous on TikTok and he's making money. You can imagine that type of entrepreneurship, you know, if other Gen Zs were learned from.
So in that space of understanding your team and being there for them, understanding that they are the ones who employ you. The reason as to why you are there as the HR, they were the ones who employed. If they are not there, then you're not here.
Before you tell us some of the people that support you and you partnered with or you wish to partner with, because it's 8:59, maybe what is that? Oh, good Lord. So we'll get to that in just a bit. What is that one critical skill that you'd say most Gen Zs don't have, especially right here in Kenya? And you could also attribute it to globally, like most Gen Zs who are just trying to figure out themselves. They don't have this skill that could possibly maybe land them the next job, land them the next network, or when they get to interact with people, they can use it so that, you know, they forge a relationship. Because like you mentioned, even when you're meeting a mentor or a possible mentor, it's not just about money. Because unajua, mtu ako kwa high profile, anipatie pesa niandeshe biashara. But you've said it's more than that. So in terms of skilling, what is that one critical skill maybe several that you feel like most Gen Zs hawana, could be in Kenya and just generally worldwide?
Financial literacy, number one. Financial literacy, I'm really big on this because I am guilty as charged when it comes to financial literacy. I was also not big on that and not really focusing on that, but I understand this is a really essential skill. Then communication skills. I believe there is more to communication than what meets the eye currently. You see, there is a way I can communicate, but there is also what I am communicating. Yes.
So the message and how it's being disseminated.
Yes.
Okay.
Then emotional intelligence, understanding that there is a way to speak to. There is, you're speaking to a fellow human being, no matter what they have done. You're speaking to a fellow human being.
But Gen Z, they have their own lingo.
Yes.
Finnish, Kumalo.
Yes, I know. But now understanding there are spaces where you will be called to and you will not speak the way you would speak outside there. So, so you understand your environment. Yes.
And that requires somebody who has been trained and skilled and they're fully equipped and situational awareness. And that's an incredible thing, actually. If that's what you're doing, then HR for Gen Z is the next big thing. It's time for the next segment. So tell people where they can find HR for Gen Zs and any other thing that you've not touched here. They can get hold of you and find it on your website or your social media with a number or an email. This is your camera that's just moving away from you right now.
Sawa, sawa. So for more information about HR for Gen Z, follow us on all social media platforms at HR for Gen Z, where we're going to discuss about sensitive things and impacting lives. And also now in terms of if you would want to partner with us, also the same, get to contact us from our social media platforms where we can interact more about partnering with us. Basically in ways you can or you feel that you might help this foundation grow and become the next big thing. For my number, I think I will put my official number, which is 0726 205 140, where you can get to contact us and get more information about the foundation. Then in line with anything related to partnership, I would want to echo some of the few people who have been in this space and partnered with me. That is the IHRM membership. Madam Kuresha, I salute you. Nelson Ogudha, the management, thank you for this. Also my jobs in Kenya, Madam Kemunto, thank you so much. 1 million under 40. Masharia, I salute you for being such a great mentor. So if you want to partner with the foundation, please welcome through the social media platforms.
So I'm sure they'll be streaming into your the places you mentioned to seek info and support. And thank you for sharing your insights here. And for the interest of time, we just want to say thank you for watching right now. The next thing we're going to do is take a very short break, and then we're coming back with the next conversation. We've been speaking to Monica Evian. All the insights, you'll find them on YouTube when the conversation is uploaded at Y254 channel at Brand Sakono, and see you on the other side in just a bit.